All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at all the odd numbered questions. So we'll factor by grouping. And hopefully you guys are getting the hang of it. So we have a common G in the first term, so we're left with an F minus 5. And then we have a common 4, so we're left with an F minus 5. So then what's in common between these two terms is an F minus 5. Oops. F minus 5, and I'm left with a G plus 4. So F minus 5 and G plus 4. Okay, and then 3. So let's see, a common 3D, and I'm left with a T minus 7. And then I'm going to factor out a minus 5 because I see it's a plus T here. And I notice I have a negative T here. So I'm going to factor out a negative 5. And then that gives me a positive T and a minus 7. So then what's in common between my two terms is a T minus 7. And I'm left with 3D minus 5. Okay, so then my answer is T minus 7 and 3D minus 5. Okay, and then here we'll factor out again. So I can factor out a B, and I'm left with a B minus 2. Factor out a 3, and I'm left with a B minus 2. So then what's in common between my two terms is a B minus 2. So then I'm left with a B plus 3. So B minus 2 and B plus 3. Okay, and then 7, we'll factor again. What's in common? Looks like a 9Q in the first term. So that would leave me a 5P minus 3. And then a minus, nope, just kidding, minus 10. So then that would be a 5P minus 3. So then again, what's in common here is the 5P minus 3, and I'm left with 9Q minus 10. So 5P minus 3 and 9Q minus 10. Okay, number 9, again, 5B, and I'm left with an R minus 5, and then a plus 2, and I'm left with an R minus 5. So then what's in common is an R minus 5, and I'm left with a 5B plus 2. So R minus 5, 5B plus 2. Oh, I should make this a little bit neater. My 2 is a little weird. Okay, and then 11 looks like a common H in my first one, so that's J minus 2 plus a common 5, so I'm left with a J minus 2. So then in common between these two terms is 1 J minus 2. And I'm left with an H plus 5. So J minus 2 and H plus 5. Okay. And then 13. Let's see. So I have a 3T. So that leaves me with a 7H minus 1. And then a minus 5 would leave me with a 7H minus 1. So then common between my two terms, oops, my highlight did not go all the way across, is a 7H minus 1, and I'm left with a 3T minus 5. So I have 7H minus 1 and a 3T minus 5. Okay, so that's 13. 15. I have a 2A, so I'm left with an A minus 2. And then there's nothing really in common in my last two terms, so I'm just going to factor out a 1. I can always just factor out a 1 out of my terms just so that I can make a factor by grouping situation. So then I have an A minus 2 that's in common, and I'm left with a 2A plus a 1. So A minus 2 and 2A plus 1. Oops. Okay. 17, again, let's see. So a common x, oops. So that's 2x minus 5, and then a common 3, and I'm left with a 2x minus 5. And then what's in common between those two is a 2x minus 5, and I'm left with an x plus 3. So 2x minus 5 and an x plus 3. Okay, so group and group. So I have a 3n, and I have, a n plus 2p, and then a minus p, and I have a n plus 2p. So then in common is an n plus 2p, and then I'm left with a 3n minus p. So n plus 2p, and then 3n minus p. Okay, that's 19. 21, let's go ahead and skip that. Just like, we did with the even ones, let's just continue to do more that don't have the decimals right now. So then I'm going to factor out, interesting. So our normal way of doing this doesn't really work because I can't really factor anything out of this first term, and the second term only has a common p in it. So let's see if so sometimes when you do factor by grouping, you might have to rearrange things. So what I notice is I can rearrange this so I have, 2nr plus 6pr plus 3p squared plus pn. So then maybe I can factor by grouping this way. And I can factor out a 2r here, and I'm left with an n plus 3. And I can factor out, I don't know, a p. And I'm left with a 3p, a 3p plus n. That doesn't work either. Let's see. So what else can we do? Maybe we could rearrange this. I don't know how else you can rearrange this. Let's see if we can rearrange this. Rearrange this a different way. So, and the reason why we're doing this is because there's no way for me to factor by grouping in a nice way. So maybe if I do 2nr plus pn plus 3p squared plus 6pr, let's see if that factor by grouping works. I can factor out a common n. I'm left with 2r plus p, question mark. Factor out a 3p, and I'm left with a p plus, hey, look, 2r. Look at that. I can actually rewrite this. So then I have n times 2r plus p, and then plus 3p 2r plus p. So now it actually works out. What's common between, my two terms is a 2r plus p, and I'm left with an n plus 3p. So again, I might have to rearrange my my factors in order for me to do factor by grouping. And sometimes when I do it the first time, like you just saw, it doesn't work. So we have to try something different, okay? All right, so let's see. Can I do it here to get factor by grouping? Maybe this is another one we have to rearrange. Let's see. So I have an n squared. That leaves me with an r squared minus p. And then what's in common here is a p. And that gives me, that gives me my daughter is packing her lunch right now. You can hear the stuff in the background. R cubed minus NPR. So that doesn't actually work. Okay. So we have to rearrange this somehow. Let's see. So let's see how we rearrange this. I might be able to, oh my gosh, she's making so much noise. Crunch, 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 crunch. She is packing potato chips, I think, in her lunch right now. Okay. I'm going to rearrange. Let's see. I can rearrange and maybe get, how about, I don't know, n squared. Let's see. N squared, r squared, with something that's got an r in it, plus r cubed p minus n cubed p minus np squared r. Okay, let's see if that works. So I would group these two together and group these two together. and I will factor out an r squared. I'm left with an n squared plus rp. And then if I factor something out of here, that's minus np, and I'm left with a n squared, and then there's no n there, plus pr. Oh, yeah. So r squared, n squared plus rp minus np times n squared plus, instead of pr, I could go rp because multiplication is commutative. So I can rearrange multiplication. Okay, so now I can highlight both of these, and then what's in common is n squared plus rp. So I'm left with an r squared minus np. So n squared plus rp times r squared minus np. And that's my answer there. Okay, 27. We're close to being done. Okay, so let's see. 2k cubed. That leaves me with a k and an r squared and an n. An n, I think. Yes. And then minus k squared. So that's with me a k r squared minus n. Okay. And then what's in common between these two terms is the k r squared. Oops. K r squared minus n, and I'm left with 2k cubed. Oh, I guess I could have factored out a k squared. You know what? I should do this the right way. These, before I do factor by grouping, I'm going to erase this. What they have in common is I have to factor out a greatest common factor. You should always do that first. So I have a k squared that's in common. So that leaves me with a 2k squared r squared minus 2k n minus k r squared minus, plus n. Yes. Factor out a k squared, yes. So now I can do factor by grouping here and go k squared. Okay, so then what's in common here is a 2k. So then I'm left with 2k r squared minus n, and then minus 1 and a k. Ooh, there's no 2. Sorry about that. Let's see what I say. Let's try this again. Okay, so what's in common? I have my k squared. What's in common here is a 2k. I'm left with kr squared minus n. What's in common, my last two terms, is a minus 1 because I can't really factor anything else out, but I do need it to be a positive kr squared, and then that's minus n. So now what's in common in the inside here is a k squared, kr squared minus n. So I have a k squared. Oh my gosh, so many k's. Okay, so kr squared minus n, and then it times a 2k minus 1. So this is k squared, kr squared minus n times 2k minus 1. Okay, sorry about that. We do have to factor out greatest common factor to start off with. Okay, so 29, almost there. And I can't really factor anything out. So I'm going to have to probably rearrange this. Let's see. How can I possibly rearrange this? Well, I could go 4x squared plus 20x minus 5y minus xy and see if that works. That would be a 4x, and I'm left with an x plus 5, and then a minus 5y, and I'm left with, nope, minus 5y, no, minus y, just kidding, and I'm left with a 5 plus x. Oh, look, that works. Okay, and the reason why I say it works is because addition is also commutative, so I can go x plus 5 minus y, and then my 5 plus x is also x plus 5. So then what's in common between my two terms here is x plus 5. So I can factor out an x plus 5, and I'm left with 4x minus y. So x plus 5, 4x minus y. Okay, and then we're almost there, Okay, so let's see. Not everybody has common terms. Okay, so let's see. So I can factor out an x, I can factor out a y. I'm left with xy squared minus z, and then minus z squared. So xy squared minus z. So then what's in common is x, okay. So then what's in common between my two terms is xy squared minus z, and I'm left with xy minus z squared. So I have xy squared minus z, and then xy minus z squared. Okay? And then I'm in a group here, so then this is, let's see, I can do 20m. That leaves me with a 3a minus x, and then minus 10x, and that leaves me with a 3a minus x. And then what's in common between my two terms is a 3a minus x, and I'm left with a, oh man, I did it again. I always forget this, and so, I should always factor out a greatest common factor. So I should have factored out 10 to start off with, and I apologize. I don't always think like that. So I would have factored out the greatest common factor. So I think about greatest common factor, and I always factor it out when it's like a trinomial, so 3 terms, but I always forget when I do factor by grouping because I'm just so used to, kind of just diving right in. So I apologize. Minus 3ax plus x squared. I should always factor out my greatest common factor, which all of them have a common 10 involved. Okay, so my first one is a 2m. I'm left with a 3a minus x, and then minus x, and that's a 3a minus x. So then in common, I have a 3a minus x, so I'm left with a 10, 3a minus x, and a 2m minus x. So 10, 3a minus x, and 2m minus x. All right, and that is it for these odd-numbered questions.